we are so excited to have you with us today because, well, might be the day after Halloween, but we got to enjoy this before Halloween, and I think you could enjoy this anytime, and you got to be excited to unveil this to the world, right?
I'm very excited. We've been doing festivals and I've been seeing the film with audiences, but it's so different when you start to get, feedback from people that are seeing it on their own across the country. And I'm getting DMs and messages and responses to a film that, we've been working on for a couple of years now. Well, you could say I've been working on it for 12 years, but it's really exciting, really exciting.
Yeah. And it's not like anything else I think I've ever seen. It's definitely unique, and you get I'm just curious how you describe this to other people, to your friends, to your family, to audiences, unsuspecting audiences.
I mean, the best way for me to describe it, which doesn't always work because it's a generationally based reference, but I would say it's like Ernest Scared Stupid or Pee-wee's Big Adventure or Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. But there's plenty of younger people you could say those references to, and they would still say, I don't know what your movie is like. I don't understand those references. I think it's important to point out that it's a character-based comedy. So a movie like this normally these days would only exist if this character was successful in another format already. If we knew the character from SNL, or if the character was a spin-off from another property. But this is a original character that exists only on the internet in short form content, and kind of similar to how Paul Rubens workshopped his Pee-wee show for years live. I guess you could look at it like I've been workshopping my character on the internet for years to now place him into a larger context, and my favorite context, which is horror comedy.
Well, yeah, because your content's been going viral for a while, and I guess given all the feedback or what people say to you, why do you suppose that is? Because it's a very, I guess, subjective kind of thing, just like any content really. But things going viral can sometimes it's a mystery to a lot of people because there's a lot of good content out there, right?
Totally. And I think, right, there's been people over the years that have kind of tried to tell me why they think the videos had gone viral. And I think initially it can't be ignored that it's a format trick, an editing trick that has attracted people to it. I've spliced my character into existing newscasts or video packages from Comic-Con floor, etc. So at first there's the gimmick of, is this real or not? And then from there, I'd like to believe people just engage with the character and want to learn more about him. And I think the test of that was how many different videos went viral. The feedback started to become less about, is this real or not? And it just became, I love this guy. I'm so happy I'm seeing him again. And I had a kind of, frenemy at work once tell me, it's not going to go viral again. This was after 2 videos had gotten a lot of views. But I had this feeling that what people really truly responded to, whether they knew it or not, wasn't the gimmick, and it was the character. And so the 3rd video also went viral and actually got more views than the first 2. And I thought those were important tests for myself personally to understand what was working about the material. And then the more videos I made, the more in-person feedback I get at horror conventions or video game conventions where people would say, I'd watch your character make a sandwich. I mean, I just like ONYX. And then I became encouraged and maybe emboldened enough to start exploring him in longer narrative contexts.
And so, of course, people find that inspiring when you can kind of blaze your own trail, make your own characters, kind of do it the way that you want to do it. And so what kind of advice would you give to people that maybe want to make some cool content or maybe want to make a movie and just kind of throw their dreams out there and do it?
I think it's just important to have confidence in your instinct. I've worked at a number of places as a producer and director and editor over the years. And there's been times where somebody has wanted to kind of fold what I do into their agenda. And there's been times where I've tried to make that happen. And it's been a bit like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And it doesn't mean that the content or the material is broken, just because it doesn't work for someone else at large or someone that might hire you or finance you, it's really important to know what you think works about what you're doing and then judge whether or not it's worth pursuing. And so I'd have ONYX content that just wouldn't work. We did an ONYX web series for a subscription VOD service that, barely got any views. And I had people tell me, well, that's proof that ONYX doesn't work in this larger narrative context. But I felt like it was a marketing issue, or it was that the SVOD was too new and it was buried amongst these other releases, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't take anyone else's analysis to be gospel. And I'm glad I didn't, because then a year later, we put that same web series out publicly on YouTube, and it got hundreds of thousands of views per episode. And all of a sudden, everybody believes, oh, it does work. And if I had given up in that interim, I would have never pursued making a feature with that character. So I would just say, listen to yourself. That's not a license to not take notes, but you have to listen to yourself first and foremost.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. Had you listened to them, we might not be talking right now. So
Right.
Well, that's also my co-host, Drew Pearson, one of our great Dallas Cowboys, legendary NFL guy with the Hall of Fame, caught the original Hail Mary. And we love to ask people their Hail Mary moment, which is that moment in your life or career where you just had to go for it. It worked out for you. What do you suppose that was for you?
It was, without a doubt, launching the Kickstarter for this film, because I was at my lowest, I think, just professionally and creatively. I couldn't get a number of features financed that I'd been working on for 5 or 6 years. And I had lost my job as a director for one of these digital companies because they had downsized. And I was really just sitting in my garage, kind of like Mark Maron before he launched WTF, where I was just thinking, like, what do I do? What do I do? And then the pandemic hit. And so, that was a low for so many of us because of how devastating and tragic that real world experience was that we all had to live through, outside of whatever creative, struggles I was having. They seemed minute in comparison. So it was hard to even find the unction to pull myself up by the bootstraps because so much was going so poorly. But I remember sitting in my garage and thinking, the only thing I could do is crowdfund a project. And the only thing I've done that would attract any amount of attention on the internet is something involving ONYX. So I need to cross the streams. I need to try to make an ONYX film that's partially crowdfunded so that Andrew, the director, can get a project going, maybe by the time we're back out in the world and creating again. And I remember I had to quit my job. I had gotten a freelance position as a producer for a relaunch of a video game network. And I quit 2 weeks into the Kickstarter. And some people I worked with were like, are you sure you're going to quit to run a Kickstarter? And I say, but I have to. It's this or nothing. And the fact that Kickstarter was successful and that led to the film getting made, and that film then led to a premiere at Sundance, which has been a dream of mine as a filmmaker since I saw that laurel on a box at Blockbuster. It still blows my mind that was how this journey has shook out so far. And now that it's going wider to more people, I just couldn't be more excited.
Oh yeah. Well, and also, that's an interesting point that you bring up, is because, we can, as creative people, get very, very down on ourselves. And so, it's sometimes hard to pick yourself back up, but we do, and we carry on.
Oh yeah.
And so what is it that you tell yourself that kind of keeps you on that right path, even when things were tough?
I think it's important to remind yourself that even if something didn't work out the way you expected, I've made films. This is my 4th feature. And my 2nd feature premiered at South by Southwest. And I thought, well, that's it. That's it. I'm golden. This is going to get picked up for distribution, and I'll be directing Paranormal Activity 3 in no time or whatever. And ultimately, it didn't lead to much, you could argue. It didn't get me representation. The film was seen and loved, but it was not the breakout horror hit of South by that year. And it's important to not leave an experience like that you've applied all these expectations to, and then judge it whole cloth based on what didn't happen. it's important to leave that experience and say, okay, well, what did work out of that? Well, we made a film for $500 that premiered at one of the largest festivals in North America. Like, so that's a win. And you've got to remind yourself of these wins and then build off of that for the next thing and say, okay, well, I learned how to shoot a movie for $500. Could I get $1,000 next time and get those same guys together and make another movie, and maybe it'll go to another big festival? It's important to just kind of, you know, debrief after these things that could seem like failures, and just take the pieces away that will help you build what the next effort is, because that might be a larger success.
That's true. Well, you know, and it's got to be great though to finally see the vision realized. Yeah, you get the Kickstarter going, you get the movie going, you're on the set, you're looking around, and have something go from your brain to the screen. You know, it doesn't always turn out the way you thought, but this, I'm sure you're looking around going, all right, we did it. And so, do you remember that moment and where you were and what was going on? Because it seems like that would be a really special thing to go through.
You know, I think that moment was the last day of shooting, because I think there was so much hubbub around getting the film shot, because it was such a low budget project, and we only had, I think we had 20 days in Massachusetts at the mansion. And I remember day by day truly being thrilled that all of these creative people were there to accomplish this vision. And so many amazing department heads, a lot of whom I had not worked with before, which is always a risk, but everybody really brought their A game. So I was excited and encouraged along the way. But the last day of filming, we shot a really integral scene where ONYX is speaking to a creature, a demon that lives in a box, and it's a puppet. And what he's saying to this creature is very personal, and it's based on a lot of my real life experience, etc. And it was an overnight, so it's, you know, 6 a.m. and I'm in this mansion in Massachusetts talking to this puppet in a box about my parents' divorce. And I thought, you know, I think we did it. We really did it. Like, this is, you know, 10-year-old me would have really hoped that's where I was at that point in life, talking to a puppet about something very personal with a crew of other creative people around, hoping that, you know, we all kind of knock this out of the park. And that was the moment I really felt a sense of completion and accomplishment. And then we wrapped and had champagne on the porch of this mansion as the sun came up, and it was a beautiful, beautiful thing.
That's so cool. I love that. And you know, of course, now, you know, the big payoff is getting people to see it, and people have been really excited about it. And so it's got to be just such a nice feeling to go into this knowing that's like, you know, that it can be done and done well, right?
Oh my gosh. Every step of the way has been, you know, any creative knows this. You believe in your idea, you believe in your vision, but you also know, you know, your vision might not be shared. It might not be celebrated. And so any kind of formal mark of validation is very valuable. You don't necessarily strive only for that validation, but when it comes, it's important. It bolsters people's confidence around you, and it bolsters people's belief that you could do something else that succeeds in that manner. And so getting into Sundance, one of the things that was so exciting about it was to be able to tell our department heads that their work would be seen on a screen at that film festival. And, you know, anyone knows that after you premiere at a festival like that, you will have a life on the festival circuit. And that's been the most fulfilling aspect of this, is that all of this work is being exposed to different audiences. And that's the same way now with it going wider, is that all those people that did favors for me and, you know, agreed to lower rates and worked overtime, that it kind of, it feels like maybe it was worth it because people are getting their eyes on their work. And that's incredibly important for me.
That's so cool. Well, then, last thing, I can't wait to see what you do next. And of course, we are in a strange time, but I know that you're probably already thinking about the next thing, if not already working on it, right?
I am. I'm very much working on the next thing that's at least next for me, just creatively. I don't know if it would be the next project to get off the ground. But there was a script that I was writing, one of the scripts that I couldn't get going prior to me kickstarting ONYX. And I went back and read it after Sundance and realized I still really loved that story. And so I've been rewriting it all summer. And I just last night saved the PDF, exported it from Final Draft, and it's saved as, draft on 10/31. I said, okay, cool. Now I've got a new draft of this script on Halloween night. And so that could be the next project. And it's something that I am in love with. But I also, if ONYX gets enough good feedback, maybe we would just make another ONYX film. And I have an idea for that that's that I'm just as excited about. More creatures, more effects, but also hopefully just as much heart, and really building on the ensemble that the first film starts to explore, and building on that family dynamic, that found family dynamic is where I would go with a second ONYX movie. So maybe that's it.
Yeah. Well, we hope to get another ONYX film, but if not, can't wait to see what that one is that you finished yesterday, and congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and definitely look forward to talking to you again very soon about the next project, but congratulations on everything so far.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye.